There is a specific kind of person almost everyone has met. They rarely talk about themselves. They ask about your day, your family, your worries, and somehow after an hour with them, you walk away feeling deeply understood while knowing almost nothing about who they actually are. It feels like generosity. It feels like curiosity. But something stranger is happening beneath the surface, and once you see it, you will notice it in almost every relationship you have. This is human nature decoded. If you want to understand people more deeply than most people understand themselves, consider staying a while. This channel exists for exactly that. Point 1. Why questions feel like intimacy. When someone asks you a question, your brain treats it as an act of care. Attention is limited, and someone is spending theirs on you, so the nervous system responds the way it responds to warmth. It relaxes. But notice what almost never gets asked in return. The conversation moves forward, yet it never moves toward them, and most people don't register this because a question doesn't feel like an absence, it feels like a gift. That's the first quiet mechanism. Attention is being mistaken for closeness, and the person asking the question understands, consciously or not, exactly how that trade works. Point 2. What silence about themselves actually buys. Here's the part that reframes everything. Someone who only asks questions isn't simply being polite, they're controlling the temperature of their own exposure. Every question they ask you is one less question they have to answer about themselves. You leave the conversation known, they leave it unled. It isn't warmth and it isn't shyness, those are the explanations people usually reach for. It's something quieter than both, staying in a conversation without ever entering it. Point 3. The hidden cost of being the only one who's known. This creates an imbalance most people never consciously detect. Relationships deepen through mutual exposure. You reveal something real, I reveal something real, and trust builds in that exchange. But when only one person discloses, the relationship stays lopsided. You feel close to them while they remain a stranger who knows your secrets. And the less someone reveals, the more power they hold, not because they're manipulative, but because unknown people are harder to predict, disappoint, or leave. But something even more interesting is happening beneath that imbalance. It isn't about power at all, it's about how closeness actually gets built. Researchers who study self-disclosure have run a simple experiment for decades. Pair two strangers, let them talk, then measure how close they feel. Reciprocal conversations, where both people reveal something real, consistently produce more trust than one-sided ones, even when the one-sided version goes deeper. Depth doesn't build closeness, reciprocity does. Which means the question asker isn't creating intimacy at all, they're creating its appearance while quietly opting out of the mechanism that actually produces it. Point 4. Why some people learned to disappear this way. This pattern rarely starts as a strategy. For many people who default to constant questioning, it began as protection. Somewhere earlier in life, being seen felt risky, met with judgment or correction, so asking questions became safer than answering them. Watch what happens the next time you compliment someone like this. Notice the reflex. It gets deflected into a question about you within a single sentence. "You're one of the most thoughtful people I know" becomes, "What made you say that?" The compliment lands for less than a second before the spotlight redirects. It rarely feels evasive, it feels like humility. But avoidance dressed as humility is still avoidance. Point 5. What this reveals about trust itself. This is where the investigation reaches its deepest layer. We tend to assume trust is built by being interested in someone, but real trust is built by risk, by two people becoming equally exposed to each other. A relationship where only one person is known isn't intimacy, it's surveillance with a friendly face. Trust grows where performance disappears. A person who never lowers their own guard, no matter how much warmth they perform, is still performing. Point 6. Why you'll start noticing this everywhere. Once you see this mechanism, you cannot unsee it. the coworker who knows everyone's personal life but reveals nothing of their own, the partner who asks endless questions on early dates while offering only rehearsed answers, the friend everyone confides in who no one has ever really comforted. None of this means questions are dishonest. Curiosity can be one of the most genuine forms of care a person offers. The difference lies in whether it's mutual, whether being known ever flows back the other way. The real measure of closeness was never how much someone asked about you. It was whether they ever let you ask back. That quiet asymmetry sits underneath almost every relationship you've ever had, waiting to be noticed, which raises a harder question than the one we started with. If reciprocity is what builds trust, why do so many people spend their whole lives making sure they're never the one who has to reciprocate? Think about the last person who put you instantly at ease before either of you had revealed anything real. That ease wasn't luck, and it had nothing to do with disclosure at all. That's the next layer of this investigation, and it's exactly where people who are effortless to talk to have this in common begins. This is human nature decoded. See you on the next analysis.